Are your transition times chaos? And do you want to know exactly how to teach calm transitions? Well, we've been using calm transitions for the last 15 years. So if you would like to know how to stop the chaos when children are moving from one activity to the next or from one classroom to the next classroom, then you are in the right place. I'm Danielle Douglas, and welcome to Let's Talk Behaviour, where we make behaviour management easy using neuroscience. We are now in 87 countries across the world, and our behaviour planner was Education Book of the Year 2025 finalist. If you find this video interesting, then you're also going to find this one interesting about how we get calm classrooms every single morning. We also have a huge bank of behaviour resources, so don't forget to check those out too. So if you are ready to get a calm classroom and calm transitions, grab your coffee, grab your notebook, and let's get into it. The first thing I want you to do and think about is exactly when those transitions or those behaviors are off. So when are the times that the children are really struggling to show those positive behavior cues? When do the most negative or non-calm behaviors happen? Make a note of when those behaviors happen and why. We found our most chaotic transitions within schools that I've worked in and within schools that we support now are around lunch times, play times, coming into the classroom, leaving the classroom, and lunch. So, exactly what do we do to make our transitions as calm and as seamless and negative behaviour free? We have found that toilet times or unstructured times, the free, not taught times, are the times where those behaviours happen the most. The times when children are changing their shoes or getting their coats, or the times when they're walking in from the playground to the classroom. These are the times when children's behaviours are the most negative, and that is because we haven't taught the transition. Over the last 15 years and within Let's Talk Behaviour, we teach every transition, and we teach the transition using something called the Teach to Change behaviour model. Now, this Teach to Change behaviour model hasn't only been used in our schools, it gets used in foster care and with foster children, and it also gets used in residential children's homes children between the ages of 3 and 18. This is the exact process that we use to teach every single behaviour, and we use this to teach transitions as well. Within this model, we will teach each transition using something called the power of three, which is simply 3 visual and verbal prompts for each transition. So if you are wanting the children to come into the classroom calmly, for that transition, you will use 3 visual and verbal prompts to help them do that. When we've decided on the behaviour and thought about the 3 visual and verbal prompts, we will then model that transition with or to the children. When we model that transition to the children, we want to show them what it looks, sounds, and feels like. So if, for example, we are doing coming into the classroom, or say we're doing the transition of going to the toilet, we need to model and show the children exactly how it looks, sounds, and feels to do that calm behaviour. We use the power of 3, visual and verbal, and the modelling to help process the information from the short-term memory into the long-term memory. Children struggle to process verbal information, so by using pictures and visual information, we use something called the dual processing theory. The dual processing theory means that by using visual and verbal prompts together, we can help the children process the information from short-term memory into the long-term memory, and they are much more likely to remember. By modelling that behaviour over and over to the children, we are bringing the information forward from the short-term memory often as we can. Now we practice those behaviours, we know that it takes around 66 days to develop a new habit, which means that we really need to practice these behaviours for around 66 days. Sometimes it's less and sometimes it's more, but it depends how quickly those children pick up the power of 3 and the visual and verbal prompts. We get teachers and parents and schools ringing us all of the time saying that we've done the behaviour with the child, we've done this, we've been through it over and over. And I will ask them, how many times have you modelled and practiced that behaviour? And sometimes it'll only be a few days, and we have to say to them, remember your 66 day behavior jail. Remember that if you haven't been practicing those behaviors for 66 days at least, you need to think that the children have not remembered or they haven't processed the information from the short-term memory into the long-term memory. So how can we help them do that better? When we have used the power of three, we've modeled and we've practiced, we use praise and fix. Now, praise and fix is using the power of positivity to praise and fix that information as an effortful behavior. We have got lots of information about the power of positivity. And if you would like our information pack on the power of positivity and effortful behaviors, then please drop us a comment below or send us an email. By praising that behaviour, we look at it as effortful behaviour, and the children are much more likely to do it again. By using positivity and the praise, we can cause the children's brain to release dopamine and serotonin, which registers that behaviour as effortful. However, if the behaviour is not quite right and they haven't got the power of three for that transition, then we will fix that behaviour. I remember for weeks, we were trying to get the children to line up on the playground beautifully and to come in off the playground really calmly. We found that the most behaviour issues were happening when the children were lining up after lunch and coming in off the playground. That's when we would get the fighting and the hitting and the kicking. So we had to work really hard with the children on trying to get them to line up safely so that they weren't hurting themselves or other people, and transitioning from the playground into the classroom as calmly as we possibly could. Now, we would praise that behaviour by saying, wow, well done. Today you did one of the three. So today you had your hands beautifully not touching somebody else, or today your feet were very calm, well done. However, your mouths weren't very calm. I wonder if tomorrow we can do that transition again, or we can do the coming in again, maybe with calmer mouths. What do you think? And that is how you use the praise and fix to change those behaviours on those transitions. We used to have to do the same when we were trying to teach the children about using the toilets and about the volume. So the children were going to the toilet and they were screaming and shouting like it was the disco. So we used to have to go through this model with the children and show them how we would go to the toilet calmly without screaming or shouting. When we've been through, we've modeled and we've practiced, we've been through the praise and fix for the behavior, we thought about our 66-day behavior jail, we would then revisit the behavior. So if the behavior needs revisiting, we would look at the behavior, which parts of the power of three and the transition do they get, and which part of the power of three or the transition is causing them more difficulty, and then we would amend it from there. We once had an issue with transitions within the classroom, and that was changing our shoes and our coats. And we found that behaviour within that transition was significant and it wasn't getting any better, even though we did our visual, verbal, and we practiced and tried for around 66 days. What we found was we needed to break it down into smaller chunks for the children because there was far too many children in that transition at that time. So we adjusted the transition, the amount of children within that transition, and it was much better. Here are the 7 transitions that I teach for a calm classroom, and we teach these within the first week. We found that coming into and out of the classroom, especially at home time and lunch times, were real transition issues. So we practiced what it was like coming into and out of the classroom at lunch and especially at home time. When it's home time and the children just run out of the classroom and run down out of the school and out of the gate, that's when we were having behaviour issues. So we really had to practice and model exactly what that behaviour should look like and why. So we would talk to the children about why it wasn't safe and why the behaviours were negative for us to do that and exit the classroom in that way. We would also practice transitions like walking around school and what that looks and sounds like. We assume that children understand and know what these behaviours are, but if we don't show them, then how are they supposed to know how to walk around? How do we know how to walk around a library or how to walk around a cinema? And that is because we've been shown and taught that these are calm, quiet places, just like within our classrooms. One of the most beneficial transitions that we taught was lining up, getting into and out of a line, especially in emergencies or when we need to move quickly. So we practiced those transitions, going to the toilet, coming back from the toilet, going to the classroom, going to the desks and coming to the carpet. It was always a nightmare in Key Stage 1 when we would transition between the carpet and the tables, and we were doing some carpet time and then table time, and we had to teach and practice those transitions because otherwise it would just be chaos and take us time to regulate and bring the children back from that amygdala emotional brain to the prefrontal cortex, ready for thinking and learning. Another transition which we have taught and has been hugely beneficial is handing out resources. So we did handing out resources of pencils and books, and those transitions between going to the bin and coming back from the bin. And it sounds like we're teaching them to suck eggs, but we literally are. Unless they know and you have taught them, then the children do not know. They don't practice these transitions at home. So within school and within our setting, we need to be really clear and precise about exactly how that transition looks, sounds, and feels. Don't forget to use the Teach to Change behaviour model for each of these transitions to go through the steps and the processes to help them remember. If we think about the forgetting curve by Ebbinghaus, children will have forgotten 50% of information within 1 hour, which means the transition from outside to inside, when we say don't run, it changes between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock from don't run into run, because that 50% of information has been lost, which therefore means that children are forgetting the information that we are giving them about that behaviour. So we really need to think carefully about these transitions and the times of these transitions, reminding them of the transitions, because children will have forgotten 50% of information within 1 hour. So the behaviour and transition that you've told them in the morning, they will have forgotten by the afternoon. So when we say we've told them, we've been through this how many times? No, if it's been an hour, they've forgotten 50%, do it again. And you will, until that behaviour feels like is a habit after the 66-day jail, it will feel like you are repeating yourself. But after that, it will become a habit and it will be part of the long-term memory. Remember in the transitions to teach using dual processing theory, which means every time we teach the transitions, we need to use visual and verbal cues. Children struggle to process verbal information. So by using visual prompts like pictures or actions, we can help the children remember the transitions and the behaviours really easily. If you would like to know any more information about our transitions, how we get a calm classroom, or anything related to behaviour, then drop us a message, send us an email. I'm Danielle Douglas. Let's talk behaviour.